We'll be right in the middle of the page. Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Rav Huna Rav Chisda v'Yasvi. Rav Huna Rav Chisda, they were sitting. Cholef ozel geniva alayu. There was a person, he was a Talmud Chacham, his name was Geniva, he was coming towards them. One says to his fellow, we're going to stand in his presence, because he's a Talmud Chacham, the Bar Urianhu, because he's a Chacham. Literally means, Uri means he's an enlightened person, from the like Oraisa, right? In Aramaic, Torah is called Oraisa, because it's an illuminator. So the other one says to his colleague, Palgo, Nekum, we should stand for a person who's about machlokas. He's a person who creates machlokas. He's a troublemaker. So therefore, they didn't stand for him. Eventually, he came towards them. So it's interesting. The Rambam rules that a Talmud Chacham who comes within one's proximity of Dal Ramos, you have to stand. What about a Talmud Chacham for another Talmud Chacham? You only have to acknowledge that he's coming. I mean, you lift yourself. You don't have to stand what we call moli kumaso, your full height. An ordinary person, Talmud Chacham, comes within his Dal Ramos, he has to stand his full height. What about if the Talmud Chacham already had come and he stood his full height and he passes by again? You should raise yourself. Just slightly. You should. Just acknowledge he's there. But there you only need an acknowledgement. But a Talmud Chacham to a Talmud Chacham, it doesn't have to be the full height. What about the person that's really a leading Torah sage? Then you have to, even if you're a Talmud Chacham, you have to acknowledge it, because it's more than, he's just not an ordinary Talmud Chacham. For instance, there's halacha that if a person is a Godel Ador or Rabbi Muvok, he's similar to a Sefer Torah. When you see a Sefer Torah, once it's in your line of vision, you have to stand. Even if it's in another room. If you see it in movement, you have to stand. Or it's even being held, because it's not in its location. The halacha is if the Aron Kodesh is open, you don't have to stand, because the Sefer Torah is in its location. But if a person is even standing with the Sefer Torah, he's not moving. You know, after they're putting it back and the Chazan stops, they sing Mizmor David, and he stops. At that moment, you have to stand, because the Sefer Torah is not in its location. So I'm saying, so a person... Rabbi Yoshe Ber held, you have to, but everybody argues. Everybody argues. With Moshe, they all argue. You could sit. It's not a problem. So, Rabbi Muvok, the halacha, as I said, normally if he's within the proximity of Dal Ramos, you have to stand. Rabbi Muvok, or a Godel Ador, the moment you see him, you have to stand. So if you saw Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rabbi Yoshev, 100 feet away, you had to stand your full height to acknowledge his presence. Okay? Mordasra also. That's like a Rosh Hashiva. But once you've stood, and now he comes, you, as I said, acknowledgement is sufficient. You just have to acknowledge. People don't have to stand the full height if they stood already for him.
No, everyone's sitting. He gets called for the aliyah.
They should, as he passes by, you just lift yourself.
You don't need to go to the full height.
No, right, correct.
You won't stand the whole aliyah.
No, don't. Again, when he gets the aliyah.
While he's standing there for an aliyah.
That's when people stand? No. Either you stand for Kiryas Torah, you don't stand for Kiryas
Torah.
Torah.
The father's standing aliyah, one is supposed to stand for the whole aliyah?
No. No. Baruch Hu something else. That Nishmur says even if you don't stand for Kiryas Torah, when a person says Baruch Hashem Baruch, you should stand. Even if you don't stand for the actual reading, because it's regular Baruch Hu. The full height, because you yourself have the same level of same. Because it's not a denigration of Torah, because you yourself represent the same thing. That's the reason.
You still value the Torah as much as anybody else.
No. If you don't stand whatsoever, you don't acknowledge a Talmud Chacham. It's a disrespect. That means you say he's a nothing. But if you as Talmud Chacham lift yourself, that means you're acknowledging he's somebody. Otherwise, why are you raising yourself, lifting yourself? Okay?
the assistant rabbi, you have to raise their hand too?
I don't know.
Right?
If he's a Talmud Chochem, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Adochi also Yudlagabayu. So Geneva finally he came upon them. Amadu b'mayas kisu. So what is he says? What are you engaged in? What's the discussion? Amru beruchos. We're speaking about winds because we spoke about at a certain time with the easterly wind, the climate change, it causes the wine has to be checked that it didn't sour. So we're talking about ruchos, winds. Amru hochi amar Rav Chonan bar Rava amar Rav. So Geneva says he's quoting Rav Chonan bar Rava in the name of Rav. Dalid ruchos menashos b'chol yom. The four winds blow every day. The winds. Ruach tzfonis menasheves in kulam. Meaning, the four winds, each one blows at a different time, but when the others blow, the northern wind blows simultaneously with the other winds. Shil mole kain ein olam iskayim. Because if it would not, the northerly wind is a cool wind, it's cold wind. Because that cools off the others. The other winds are hot winds. So if the wind is too hot, the world would actually would be destroyed. So that wind, it goes and it lowers the temperature that the wind, the heat of those winds should not be destructive winds. Afilu sha'achas ruach dromis kosher mikulan. We discussed this yet. The southerly wind is the most damaging wind. Vilmole benetz mamido. And if not the benetz, which we'll see in a moment, if the benetz, which is a certain malach that looks like in the prophetic vision like a small bird, it doesn't hold it back, it would destroy the world, even with the other winds. This ruach dromis, the northerly wind, the southerly wind, shenemar, it's based on the posuk in the Yov, Ami binoscho yaver netz yifros kenofof letemon. Right? We'll see in a moment. Yaver comes from the word aver. The aver of the nets, the limb of the bird, Yifros spreads its wings letemon, to the south, referring to the southerly wind. It holds back the southerly wind. V'rover Rav Nachman Yitzchok Haviyasvi Ha'icholef Ozil Rav Nachman Yaakov. He says, Rava and Rav Nachman Yitzchok were sitting, and all of a sudden they see a guharka. We'll see. They used to either a coach or it was like a sedan chair. They used to carry people in these sedan chairs. It was enclosed. Also, Rav Nachman Yaakov, so this Rav Nachman Yitzchok is sitting with Rava, and this Rav Nachman Yaakov is passing Bukaharka de Davo in this golden coach that's with gold, gilded with gold. Oporisle Sarbala de Karsi, and he's covered with a coat or a covering which is dyed green, intense green, so you can't see who he is. And you know who he is? Rava Ozil Gabe. Rava went towards the coach. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Ozil Gabe. He was covered away; you couldn't see who he was. At this moment they didn't know it was Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov, Rav Nachman Yaakov in the coach. We'll see in a moment. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Ozil Gabe. Rav Yitzchak would not go, which means going to him is you're acknowledging, giving him kavod. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak didn't want to give him any acknowledgement. Why? He's from the members of the Exelorok's home, and they were tough, and they weren't necessarily people that were worthy of the acknowledgement. So he says, I'm not going to acknowledge him, because if you ride in that kind of coach, and whatever it is, he's probably one of the people from the Reish Galusa, from his entourage, or the family. If you read a little history, in time of the Reish Galusa continued even through the Gaonic period. And the Reish Galusa, the family, very often were problematic. They were, they weren't Talmidei Chachamim the way the Nesiim were from Eretz Yisrael. Reish Galusa, the Exelorok, that was above him. And eventually it evolved to a point where things weren't so great, and they would impose their positions, even though sometimes it was against the halacha, or it was monetary issues. What it was a power struggle. What? Yes, they were like the prince. They were. Yes. Yes. Well, Rava tzarich lo. He says Rava needs them, so Rava has to play up to them. He needs them. Ano lo tzarich nalu. Yeah, but I don't need them. Therefore, I don't have to play up to them. It's interesting. I mean, so a Rav is what we're talking about, a false flattery. He's really, the person is not worthy, but because Rav needs him, so therefore he's compromising himself to acknowledge him, because he needs the favor. Quarrelsome? Talmud Chacham has nothing to do with being pleasant. A person can be unpleasant. If he has Torah knowledge and he abides by the... Where? He may not be a Talmud Chacham, this person. He says he... Geneva. It depends how bad the flaw is. How bad? I mean, if you take a look at the way at the Gemara, he was mispal that maybe he should be arrested. The Gemara says over there he was arrested, and he was put on trial to be killed. It is Geneva, because he acted so disrespectfully. By machlokes, where it's not he caused actually that the Torah should be compromised. His behavior. Yeah. Kidduchozer Rav Nachman Yaakov. Kidduchozer, the Rav Nachman Yaakov. All of a sudden he sees that this person covered with his green covering blanket. It was Rav Nachman Yaakov. Ozl Gabe. So he went to him. Yeah. He approached him. Ozl Gabe Golid Ladari. He was covered with this wrap, which was to keep him warm, and he exposed his arm. He uncovered his arm. Oma Shajin Noshiv. He says the wind, like from the demons, there's a wind blowing, which means a very hot wind. So he uncovered his arm from this covering because just to get some air. It was hot. Omar Rova. We're speaking about the winds, how the wind's able to affect the wine, that it could cause the wine to sour. So then we're digressing. Hogmar is digressing now. All this is discussed in Gemara in Tainus.
Didn't recognize him, really recognize him, really stood and he bared his eyes.
There's no question. Okay, there's no question. If you studied Ramchal, all these Gemaras are cited. There are many things encrypted in this Gemara, which is the hidden Torah. Otherwise, a lot of this is totally irrelevant, right? So they only use incidents what happened, and they record it. Of course, even on a literal level, there's something you'd learn from it. But all this intricate, detailed discussions, all irrelevant. That they get into the detail is only because if you have the code, how to read it properly, there are many things you could read into this which you wouldn't understand. But it's revealing many things in the hidden Torah which the ordinary Talmud Chacham would not understand.
This is Kabbalah.
That's Kabbalah. Yeah.
So, in the Torah, the east wind
It says because the northerly wind did not blow in the desert, therefore the blood did not clot. And they no. Despite that it did not, they still circumcised themselves. It did not blow. All the winds blew except this is the desert. In the desert.
That was the east wind blew the night before.
That was something else.
For the
That was a gale force wind.
But we never hear about the south wind in the Torah.
No.
The Chamsin is the southern wind, isn't it?
You got to speak to the meteorologists in Israel about the Chamsin. Okay.
But the only winds really are the north and east wind. Never hear about
The Torah doesn't discuss the north wind. That's Chazal, the Gemara. The Gemara tells us the reason why the blood they didn't clot. The blood didn't clot because the northerly wind did not blow. Okay. Omar Rav Hochi Omar Rav Isham Apelisbo. That this wind, this hot wind, could cause a woman to miscarry. That's to what degree it could affect a person. So Rava said, in the name of Rav, it causes a woman to miscarry. Shmuel Omar Afil Margola should be a Markevisbo. That the pearl in the sea, the pearl actually, Markevis means rots. Rabbi Yochanan afil shich v'zeh shmei isha masrechas bo. The Gemara says in Shabbos that for 3 days the sperm remains active. After 3 days it becomes putrid. That's the reason why we had to separate from the wives for 3 days, because if the woman would expel any of that semen from her body, it would contaminate her. If she would expel it after 3 days, it's putrid. It becomes putrid. It's not active anymore. A woman cannot conceive from it. It only contaminates as long as it's active. After 3 days, it's not active any longer. So over here it says that even within 3 days, this hot wind can actually affect the sperm, the semen, that it becomes inactive, and it's considered putrid.
There's a medical condition called a varicocele.
Yeah, sure, about it.
Okay, people know it's varicose vein. Okay, but there's a varicocele is the vein that
In the testicle.
Testicle.
Right.
So especially, it's very common in Orthodox men that they have a varicocele, and it's a major cause of infertility.
Right.
Why?
Because the motility.
The vein, the motility
Right,
is
right.
because the temperature,
Yeah.
the heat
Right.
stays elevated, so the sperm doesn't.
But that's
can't
where.
survive.
But there, here we're talking about it has motility, but the heat destroys it.
No, but it's a similar thing. Varicocele.
So that's the whole idea. They could freeze sperm. They freeze it. So if you leave it exposed, just naturally, even to room temperature, eventually the motility dies. It becomes putrid. By freezing it, you keep it. You freeze it in place. There was a case a few years ago. It was written up in the paper. They found a body in Scandinavia, one of these countries, where it was frozen in the bogs. The person was one of these yodelers. He fell off a mountain, and he was frozen for 1,500 years. He had a pouch with grain. It still had the grain, and the grain was still fresh because it was frozen. So they wanted to extract his sperm. You ever such thing? And women lined up. They wanted to be impregnated with his sperm to see what kind of human being that person was, because his sperm was also preserved because he was frozen. But what happened was, a few hours after he took him out of the box, they thawed him out. He turned to dust immediately. That's what happened. The body totally decomposed.
So they couldn't remove the sperm.
That was the problem. Okay. Yeah, okay. Aber Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Shloshna Mikra Echad Dorsha. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says the 3 opinions, whether it causes the woman to miscarry, or the pearl to rot, or the sperm to become putrid, the heat, each one based it on the same pasuk. The pasuk alludes to every one of these things, to what degree this wind, this very intense hot wind, affects. The Gemara is a Shaila in Nida, and the Gemara Shabbos we had. The halacha is, we said that by Kabbalah Satorah, the sperm remains viable for 3 days, the motility. After 3 days, it becomes putrid, and therefore doesn't contaminate. So Gemara is a Shaila, a Jew has relations with a non-Jewish woman. Okay? And then the sperm is expelled from her body. Does it contaminate within 3 days? Or after 3 days? So there's the Shaila. Women, the Jewish diet, we don't eat shkotzim rasa, we don't eat rodents, we don't eat certain non-kosher foods. Goyim eat that. So maybe because the chemistry is different, because they eat the rodents, therefore the intensity of the body, the heat in the body is more intense, and therefore even within 3 days the sperm is destroyed. The motility doesn't remain that long, so therefore if she expels the sperm, the semen, even within 3 days it will not contaminate. That's the Shiloh. What do we say? Just to the contrary, that a Jew who has a certain intensity because he has a chiyuv mitzvahs, he has an obligation to perform mitzvahs. That intensity and the personality, that's what causes it to deteriorate the sperm. But a goy who doesn't have that intensity, even beyond 3 days, the sperm will still remain viable. Whereas the Shiloh. So the Pischei Tshuva Nichlas Nida cites a Shiloh. It has to do if you invest in medical, in biotech. As a Shiloh, this woman, she was whenever she'd have relations with her husband, she'd menstruate. It's a problem. So the halacha is if it happens 3 times, the husband has to divorce her. Because she's always a menstruant. There's no way. Right? So the question is, they came up with some kind of medication which was tried out that non-Jews took it, because it doesn't make a difference if they're menstruating or not. And after taking it for an extended period of time, the woman stops menstruating. Although initially, the act of cohabitation activated the uterus to expel blood. So the k'shayla is, Sam Sofa speaks about, could a Jewish woman rely on the trial tests of a non-Jew, because maybe the chemistry of a non-Jewish woman is different than the chemistry of a Jewish woman, as the Gemara says. The physiology is different because the diet or the intensity of a personality is different. So maybe she processes the medication differently than a Jewish woman would process it. So he comes out, he concludes that you could rely on the trial test, even though it was only tested on a non-Jew. Of course, we only were limited to what the Gemara discusses, but in terms of this, we don't find any difference in that the physiology would make a difference of the Jew and a non-Jew. Okay? The pasuk says, "Q bein achim yafri," the word achim. Yovu kodim ruach Hashem min midbar oler v'yevush makoro. It says it will drive the makor. Makor is the source. Yevush makoro ze makoro shalisha. Meaning the child that's gestating in the womb of the woman, that's the makor, it will dry it. So that means it will cause it to miscarry. For a woman, this heat, this hot wind will cause her. Yechrav mayono, mayon is a well. That's referring to liquid. Zeshikva zera, shemei isha. That the sperm, the semen in the woman, it will cause it to become putrid. Hu yeshase otzer kokli chemdo. It will destroy the otzer. Otzer means the treasure location, which has kli chemdo, vessels which are ornate. Zumagola shabiyam. That's referring to the pearl. Pearl is jewelry. Okay, so this pasuk alludes to each one of the things that each one of the Zamorim had said. What this hot wind, the damage it causes.
The makor is the sperm, isn't it?
No, the makor is makor means the source.
The source is the sperm.
No, it's not. Omar Rova, Adi Siro, who the Daiki Kro. He says, so Rava says, the people come from Suro. Suro was a province in Bavel, who the Daiki Kro. They're meticulous in the interpretation of the Pesukim. Therefore, he was able to show from this Pasuk how each one of the opinions is alluded to. So the Gemara says, Maihu bein achim yafri. What does it mean? Bein achim yafri. Yafri means disrupt, right? To be mafri. Omer Rova of shafilu shufsa ukapinu demorid rafyo. That when this hot wind blows, even the handle in the spade loosens. Now you wedge what happens because it constricts. It causes whatever it is. It affects the texture. No, it dries the moisture. No, it dries the moisture. Wood has so as the wood becomes dry, it shrinks. So therefore, the handle becomes loose in the spade. Rav Yosef Oma afilu sichso bedafna rafyo. That if you have a peg in a wall, also the peg shrinks, shrivels from the heat, and it becomes loose. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Oma afilu kanyo bekufso rafyo. That the koner, if you have a wicker basket, also normally when you weave the wicker basket, it's interwoven, it's tight, but because of the heat. So you tell me, I'm David's question. I mean, do we have to know this? The heat affects it to such a degree. I mean, is that so important? Again, even the pasuk, it's based on the pasuk. That's what the pasuk is telling us. Evidently, there are many other allusions here which are not obvious what it's alluding to. Okay, back to the halacha. Yeah. You know, I once said from Noda Yehuda, Noda Yehuda had authored a saying called Slach. Slach is an acronym, Tziyum L'Nefesh Chayo. It's on Brochus and Shabbos. And over there he writes in the introduction, you find Agarta throughout Shas. And if you remember, we learned Chagiga, at least this Agarta we understand just literally what it means. The question is, what's its value to know this? Is Agarta in Chagiga, we don't even begin understanding, the concepts. Okay, got competition. So over there it speaks about the thigh of a malach. The thigh of a malach is 500 years. If you want to travel from his thigh, that's how it speaks about these things, the heavens and this and that. It's Maisa Merkava over there. Why even record it? Right? It's Agarata. So over there the Tziv, he explains it with a moshel. He says there was this old man with this young boy stranded on an island. They were shipwrecked on an island, and the old man says to the young boy, look, I'm going to teach you the rudiments of education, how to write, how to read, math, all that, because by the time we're found, I'm not going to be here any longer. But you're a young boy, you'll be a young man, you'll be middle-aged, but they're going to find you, you'll be alive, and you're going to be integrated into society. So unless you have the basic rudiments of education, you're not going to be able to be an effective person. So I'll teach you everything. So when eventually they locate you, immediately you'll be able to fully function in society. And that's what, and he taught him everything. So the Tziv writes, in this world, we're shipwrecked on the island. There are many things we don't have the grasp, we don't have the capacity to understand. But so the Agarta, which we don't understand, when we study here, ultimately, when we come to Olam, to the other world, and we learn it, we're in a spiritual realm, then we understand what it is. Then, because we have the basic rudiments and we have the facts, now we'll understand what the facts, what they actually mean. So that's why that's the value of studying things that we don't fully grasp now, because ultimately, if you retain that information will be elucidated, understood when you arrive in that other location. That's the Nitziv. Hashalosh get liishto. Okay, now we know that a person, only a husband is authorized to give a get. Why are you able to give a get through a shliach? Because Torah says that a husband who appoints a shliach, the agent is equivalent of himself. But you're only an agent as long as he wants you to be an agent. What happens if the husband gives a get to a wife, and he goes and he cancels the agency before he gives the get? So then the person is no longer representing him. Let's say, and now he gives the get to the woman unknown to him, unknown to the shliach, that he was canceled, and the woman receives the get. What happens if she marries now? She assumes the man who gave it to was a shliach. He even has witnesses that he was appointed initially as the shliach, but the question is, who said it's carrying through? Right? And now she gets married. It's adultery, right? She doesn't even realize the problem. So we'll see. If you want to cancel a get, could you cancel a get unbeknown to the shliach who's delivering the get? Or if you do it in a public setting, based on word will get out, that's sufficient, or we're still worried? Right, as long as the woman knows that it was canceled stuff, as long as the shliach knows it was canceled stuff. Either one. But let's neither know. And you make a declaration in front of 3 people, which is the equivalent of a bezdin. The agent I sent with the get, I'm canceling him. Right? Is that enough? Is that sufficient for, so you made your declaration, and your intention has been revealed? And 3 is always considered public setting. We speak about macho, person that occupies somebody else's property. And he protests it within 3 years of the person occupying his property. Then he comes, he has a claim. Where's the document? Right? Where's the deed? If you purchased them, where's your deed? Man can't say, well, I felt complacent and I misplaced the deed. Because if the protest ultimately reached the ears of the one who occupies the property. Because since it was the protest was made in a public setting versus chaver islay, that ultimately word carries your friend as a friend and ultimately gets back to the person who's occupying the land. Evidently, word travels quickly. Word travels quickly.
The woman will find out about it within 3 months because that's supposed to marry anybody.
Okay.
In this case, of course,
But we'll see. Rabbi Gamliel made a takona. Rabbi Gamliel made a takona. That unless the shliach is aware that he's canceled, it's not canceled. It's not canceled. Of course, you could have this issue.
The three witnesses have to be qualified.
Not witnesses. 3 people.
Any.
We'll see. Hashliach get lishto v'giya b'shliach, and he came upon the shliach, or shesholach achrav shliach. Either he himself met up with the shliach, or he sent an agent after the agent to tell him, "V'omelo get shon asayt lo botelu." The get that I gave you, I'm canceling the get. Yeah, I mean, he didn't even say I'm canceling the get. The get is ineffective. So in essence, he's canceling the shlichus. Harize botel. So it's canceled. So here the shliach, either he informed the shliach, the agent, or he appointed an agent to inform the agent. The Gemara's going to ask, I mean, if we already said if you inform the agent that he's canceled, or the shliach, I mean, you say yourself, you say maybe yourself. What is each case adding to the previous case? If you cancel with shliach, you yourself can't cancel it. So the shouldn't you can cancel it. What is the power of the agent canceling the agent? Because you appoint him, the agent to cancel. So does the Mishnah have to tell me that, if you meet up with the agent, you cancel him, you're able to cancel him? So let's say the second case, not the first case. Right? So you could say lo zu avsu. With Gemara, but the Gemara says something interesting. It says in the Mishnah, v'higia. The Mishnah says higio. If what does higio means? He intentionally sought out the agent. Higi means he happened to meet him. He met him casually. It's not that he was looking for him. So I would say, since he didn't pursue him to cancel it, that he's telling the agent, something came to his mind, you know what? He wants to give his wife the business. Let the wife think that she's not divorced. Let her hang for a while. His intent is only to cause his wife grief. That's his intent over here. If it's a higio that he pursued her, if it's really urgent, you pursue the agent to tell him that he's canceled, right? One which you're pursuing. All of a sudden, it's like nonchalant. You happen to meet him, therefore, by the way. What do you mean, by the way? If it was urgent, you really don't want to divorce your wife, you should have been pursuing this man. So therefore, maybe that would be an indication that your intent is not as you're saying, and therefore maybe the get should retain its validity and its effectiveness. No, even if he does it in a casual, passing way, that's enough. What about an agent canceling an agent? Because he'd say, they're both agents. Maybe the first agent, he retains himself. Unless you cancel him yourself, the agent himself, we don't rely on what he says. We'll see. The Gemara discusses this. No. And the agent says, I represent so-and-so. Yeah. But the problem is, let's say afterwards the husband claims that he never pointed, but let's talk. If he has a get in his hand, and the get has been confirmed, right? Where did he get the get from?
That's what I'm thinking about the next case, where if you needed, I was going to ask whether you needed witnesses, where you tell the agent.
The second agent.
Well, when you tell him he's fired, you need witnesses for that. And does the second agent have to take the get back, or can you leave with the first agent and just verbally tell him he's fired? If he doesn't take the get back, the back can just go get the get anyhow.
Well, no. Hopefully he won't give the get. Let's say the agent didn't have the get with him. He says, by the way, the get you have is canceled. He says it's canceled. Right? Does he ask for the get back? Seemingly he doesn't have to ask for the get back. It would make sense. But we're talking about if the agent has any level of integrity, he's not going to deliver the get, because he's going to misleading a woman to allow her to believe that she's divorced and she's not divorced. Right? You could always wait. That's something else. That's Tanai. If you do an action and the transaction is conditional, so the condition has to undo the action. Here, what is the basis why you're my agent? Because I appoint you, so I have a right to cancel you. So what? Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't make a difference. No. Why not? I'm canceling it. Why not? I have a right. You only represent me as long as I want you to represent me.
Well, bottom line,
Wait a second. What about Kidemetz Lishto? Let's say he went to his wife. Before the agent arrived, he tells the wife, the get that you're going to receive, I canceled. He wasn't able to locate the agent. Right? Or he sent her the agent to tell her, the get that you're going to receive is nothing. So also the Gemara will say, maybe he's giving it a business. Right? No, which means, in truth, the agent, he never canceled the agent. But he wants to make her life complicated. Nevertheless, he's believed, and when she receives that get, she knows the get is nothing. He meets either her or he sends an agent. He says, the get that I sent is botel. Harize botel. What about im shegia get liodo? What about he arrives? He says, after she receives this, by the way, the get you received, I canceled. It's too late. Once she received the get, and there's no indication that he canceled it earlier, if he could bring proof he already canceled it earlier, it's canceled. But here he just tells it means nothing. Because the presumption is the get is a viable get, therefore she's divorced.
How about if 3 witnesses